Thank you, Ben. Spot on. It is coming up to 11:30 p.m. here, so we will dive right in. We've got 30 minutes, 3 awesome guests, and a very big topic tonight. So, Shaun, I'm going to kick things off with you. I think to say 2020 has been a tough year would be understatement of the year, but particularly for rights holders and broadcasters. I guess for you guys at Bleacher Report and for a host of OTT platforms, things are slightly different. You're quick to market, you're agile, you're freedom, most importantly, you're non-reliant to some extent on the 90 minutes. So would it be fair to say that it's in fact been a year of growth for you guys?
Yeah, I guess. So we're now in a world where being a fan is more than just tuning in for the 90 minutes of the match. That just doesn't feed the appetite or the hunger for a modern day fan. So whereas being a fan used to be a part-time kind of behavior, it's now a 24/7 mobile, full-time job, watching wherever, whenever they want to watch it. So your 24/7 fan follows sports throughout the year, even in off season. And for Gen Z especially, being a fan is much more than just the game itself. They want to know everything outside of those 90 minutes. They want to see a behind the scenes. They want to see what these teams, what these players are wearing, how they're training, how they're living, what they're driving, where they live. And that's where BR steps in. We play that key role, kind of intersection in between sports and culture. So despite the lack of, I guess, live coverage, fans were still eager to stay involved and connected to BR. And these 24/7 fans have an insatiable appetite and desire to consume sports content. So to feed the appetite, which meant that BR's channels continue to grow, and not just grow, they continue to thrive. In fact, we're up 25% on views per post within the hiatus. And what we found is that without the real-time content to digest, fans were tuning in for evergreen content, to consume evergreen content such as highlights, reels, of previous seasons, fan-generated content, athlete-generated content as well. And gaming was really popular as well.
Thank you. And look, switching over to Tomos, look, you guys also operate particularly outside of the 90 minutes. To what extent have you seen a complete change or a shift in content consumption during this lockdown period, during that period without live sport, and particularly amongst your younger audiences?
Yeah, no, it's certainly changed, and it's changed for everybody. We have obviously got a number of partners who will live stream on YouTube, and clearly many who will upload highlights onto their YouTube channel. And clearly that wasn't possible for several months. And so they adapted. And we know that many of them were doing a number of things that Shaun was talking about. So the big 3 themes that we saw were archive content. We saw a big theme around full-length games that were being uploaded by a number of clubs and different sporting partners. Those worked particularly well, especially when you had commentary from people who'd actually participated in the games that they were showing. So archive was one area that had a lot of focus. Esports was another one. Shaun mentioned it. Absolutely right. Huge amount of activity around esport. And then fitness is the other area where you had both native YouTubers and professional athletes who were helping people stay fit during lockdown. They needed to stay fit. Clubs showing how they were able to stay fit, but also themselves demonstrating to fans how to stay fit in lockdown. So new themes emerging, or at least accelerating during that period that replaced the 90-minute or 90-minute related content.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like sort of 2 pretty positive stories from both of you guys. Switching to Javier, it's been a tough year for you guys as a club, and by the looks of things, a tough couple of months for your arm and your shoulder, but particularly around trying to keep your fans engaged. So how did you turn that challenge into some form of an opportunity, looking outside of the traditional means of content that you would typically use?
Yes, for us it's very important for a club. I think in 2020 the brands are more, the clubs are more than traditional clubs. No, we have more than 100 years, and we have to have in mind that our fans they want not only the sportive part. We are more entertainment company, no? And we have to engage with them to show the things that they want. No, in traditional clubs, only we had the newspapers, televisions to have information. Now we have also to entertain them and to be close to them. Now we have a lot of platforms to a lot of different targets, and for Gen Z, more or less, we have to engage more with them to increase the entertainment, and also to see that we are keen on the social media responsibility with our community as a big brand, and we are working on that focus, no, and to split the content for that targets, and also engage them with different kind of measures.
And just sticking with you, Javier, Tomos mentioned that they've started to look into new categories that have exploded in engagement, like fitness, but like cooking. And we spoke earlier in the week, and you had a few good examples of like how you guys have utilized resources and even staff members at the club that you typically wouldn't put on screen. Could you talk us through a few of those?
Yes, I think that lockdown, that COVID changed our lives, changed our way to communicate with not only with our fans, also with the world. And as a club, we knew that we have to improve a lot of different measures to have a relation with the fans. For example, we started with our psychologists to give good advices to people in their homes, no? Because a lot of people went more or less crazy, no? In that time. It was a really crazy time. We have also healthy recipes with our nutritionist. We have, for example, we give the opportunity to our fans to ask our people like a press conference, in virtual press conference, to ask about how they were dealing in that moment. We did a lot of challenge also from home. We use that kind of contents in one claim that was a month from home. A month is our claim, or is like up, be strong, and we did a lot of challenge, a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement, because most of them, we want to be close to them in that time. Also, we start with charity actions, helping and giving homage to our people that were working in first line, people that was working in hospitals, and I think we did a very good work to in that lockdown to stay not like we don't remember in that time that we were working for an sportive company. No, we were working to be close to people in our community and international also.
Nice. And just back to you, Shaun, sticking on that topic of engagement, fan engagement during a tough time. You guys are pretty well known as the kings of social media, more engaged than Cristiano and Messi, I think, across the top three social platforms, which is quite some feat. But beyond the faster reactive content, the highlights, could you talk a little bit about the original content, the original production you guys are doing, particularly to target the younger audience, so-called Gen Z?
Yeah, sure. So when we're, I guess, looking at that kind of content strategy, I guess, and how we look at that content strategy and that kind of, I guess, output that we put out, one of the things you have to take into account is that being a fan is a visceral emotion, right? And fan behavior is fluid. So when it comes to the kind of, I guess, the outcomes of those kind of sporting events, they're untold, and we've yet to see those moments and stories unfold and come to fruition. So when we're looking at that strategy, we need to remain fluid in terms of what we're creating and what that looks like. And that could be anything from short kind of graphical-led content to long-form story-led content. And that kind of falls into two buckets. One is kind of real-time content, which could be anything from highlights, which garner on average 1 million+ views, or it could be anything from long-form kind of evergreen content, which could be around the story of Anthony Borges that we told, who was in place, or was there in the Parkland shooting. So that kind of evergreen content really resonates well with our fans as well.
And you're on the commercial side of the business. I mean, from our experience, commercial content or branded content is incredibly difficult to push the engagement rates. It's often done, it looks stagnant, it's slow, it's not engaging, it's not fun, it's not entertaining. Yet you guys do it incredibly well. what's the balance that you try to strike between, I guess, viable commercial content and fun, entertaining editorial content?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the objectives or the aim of any commercial kind of content that we create, our commercial strategy, is that it has to be just as good as the editorial content that we create. The user can't be able to tell the difference. That's the aim. And it needs to be just as engaging as the straight up editorial content, right? And that's because we live in a world where everybody can buy views, right? So engagement is really where we hang our hat. That's the true reflection of whether a piece of content is connecting with your user. And that's one of the rules that we live by at BR. Now, your Gen Zers in particular, I guess, are happy to be advertised too, and they're hungry for that content, but it's got to fall under, I guess, a few premises or a few categories. And so it's got to be authentic. You know, your Gen Zers, as I said, are happy for content to be branded. In fact, they value brands that create that content, but it's got to be authentic. So we've got to keep it real, right? They love it when it's personalized down to whether that be their favorite athletes, length of content, where they want it, when they want it, on whatever platform and device they want it as well. So we need to adapt and fit that content to suit their habits and their needs. And then CSR is really important as well. You know, does the campaign have a purpose? You know, Gen Z care about brands that have a positive and social environmental effect. So like a recent Kia campaign partnership that we created, which is around rewarding fans that had given back to the community during hiatus. And also they're looking for brands, publishers to be expert, offer advice. You know, they're looking to us, to you guys, to learn and find out more, essentially.
And sticking on this, the word Gen Z, this group of late 90s post-millennials, pre-alpha, which was a category that I've only come across in the last 24 hours. So this is somewhere between 12 years and 23-year-olds. Yeah. Thomas, if I just switch over to you, we've talked about production of content for Gen Z, but you guys, you give a platform, you give a voice to creators, and Gen Z are creators like no other generation before them. So could you just give us a bit of an insight into how you work with some of these young fan creators and influencers, sports influencers, football guys that are creating their own channels?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a huge number of creators, YouTubers, influencers who use YouTube as the platform that they want to use to communicate to audiences and to engage with fans. We give them that platform and we help them in on the technical side, on the editorial side, but on the whole, they know what they're doing, and it's for us to get out of the way and make sure that they're able to monetize that as effectively as possible. I think what ultimately we're able to do is to provide the biggest potential global video audience for the content that they make. And there's a great story of a British creator, Spencer Owen, who created his YouTube channel years ago, built up a fantastic channel. He then took that and built a football team called #United off the back of the success of his YouTube channel. So he took it from YouTube and made it real. And the wonderful part of this story is that that football team has grown in popularity and was actually competing in the FA Cup live on the BBC last night. And I'm very pleased to say that they won the game on penalties. So this is an example of somebody who has used that YouTube platform through his own ability and through his own talent to reach that global audience and actually take it off YouTube and do amazing things. And so that's where we feel really proud, is if we've contributed in a small way to the success of a channel like that, helping somebody as talented as Spencer, and actually, you know, having him be successful off YouTube, because we're only one platform of many. There are many other things to be doing. And if the, you know, sport and activity and real fandom is part of that, then that's fantastic.
Well, I guess that brings me to the clubs, because if you're a club running a YouTube channel, like, how do you compete with that pure freedom of editorial content that a fan channel or an influencer can create? So you do work with pretty much every single top football club in the world. They have their own official channels. I guess what makes the good ones stand out, and what are the bad ones doing wrong?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is to recognize that there are a number of things that clubs don't have. So they often don't have access to their own live games and that kind of thing. But there is one thing that they have which is exclusive and unique to them, and that's the access that they have to behind the scenes in the club. Nobody else has that. And it's not unlimited. You know, the manager will say, okay, that's enough of the camera in the changing room and so on. But it is unique. Nobody else has that kind of access as the media team of a top club. And so maximizing that, I think, would be the one thing. Nobody else has it. You're the only one who has it. And fans are really, really keen to see that behind the scenes. I think the second thing to say is that there is a different way of telling the story of match day that clubs are able to do that, again, nobody else is able to do. There's a number of examples. For example, Spurs will do a live pre-game show. Flamengo in Brazil will do a live audio commentary during the game. Manchester City will do a live review at halftime, and Liverpool will do a live press conference after the game. Now, that is 90 minutes and more, all of which has been covered live, but in a very different way. Only the clubs can do that. And so I think it's just recognizing what the clubs have that is unique, that is exclusive, and that fans really want, and really doubling down on that.
Nice. I see Javier was writing some of down those tips for the Valencia channel. Javier, switching to you, we've talked about fans, creators, user-generated content. I guess what I'd be interested to understand is how you as a club bring fans inside that storytelling, inside the content production, and how you work with your own fans and bring them inside the production.
We think that in 2020 is very important. It's not only unidirectional content. We have to combine also with content creators that are, most of them, our fans. We use also influencers that are also fans to increase our engagement. But for example, in the new platforms or in the traditional platforms, we use a lot of strategies to engage them, like for example with challenge now that TikTok appears in a very energetic way, because it's a very powerful also platform to engage with them. For example, we are doing initiatives to engage them, to help us to for example, that Sunday was the World Paella Day. Paella is a very famous dish from Valencia. And for example, all over the world, we send a challenge to them to share with us their own paella, no? And we receive videos cooking paellas, photos. We have a lot of discussions about the different ingredients that paella has or not has, because here is people very strong with that. And we have in each platform, we have to find the way to interact with them. No, for example, also with a sportive challenge, also we can have some shirt, like a present for them, for the best. And for that generation, it's very important. I think that we don't work like a unidirectional club, unidirectional content. We also do them to participate with us. No, and for example, a lot of challenge, a lot of actions with them. For example, we did a kind of challenge also in the city to find the new kit years ago, and it's always to think that how we can be engaged or fans in our different strategies and our different.
Yeah, so it's for a club, it's always about trying to find that one thing that you guys are doing that no one else is doing. And I think one area it was brought up earlier in the conversation is esports. Some teams are embracing esports, some are completely staying well clear of it, and some don't really know what they're doing. Could you give us a little bit of an insight into what you guys are doing within esports as a category, specifically looking at that younger audience?
Yes, exactly. We were the first club that started with eSport in Spain. In fact, we have a special shirt and a special main partner with our eSports teams. We have different teams, League of Legends, also FIFA. And for example, we opened Twitch also to have our fans engaged, seeing the matches or participating. We did also in that lockdown, we did some friendly matches with other teams, for example, with LaTorre, remembering one historical match. And I think that the esports also is a new target for us that we can bring also to our club. At the end, we want to to engage our fans, not only because they are Valencian fans, because they also see, not only in Valencia, also in international context, we are going to bring that fans, not only because they like our football, also because they like our style, they like our esports teams, they like how we are working with our platforms, and it's the way now to attract more people to our club.
Understood. So just Thomas, going back to you, something I read that came out in the last week was that MLB, Major League Baseball, opened up its archive, full access of its archive through, I think, Google's Film Room platform, to creators, to fans, to people to actually use and produce content with their official archive, opening up that rights. Do you see that as an awesome first step in this industry? Do you see that as something that other rights holders and IP will continue to do? What would be your take on that?
I'm not sure if I'd see it as a first step. I'd say that we've been doing that on YouTube for a long, long time. But I think I think there are some interesting examples and some interesting things to take from that. First of all, I think that a lot of rights holders feel that archive is some sort of gold mine, and it's very, very rich. But it does cost a lot of money to extract value from that gold mine, because if you want to go in and edit great clips and so on and so on, that takes a lot of resource to do. So it does happen, and there are agencies that will help do that, but it's time consuming and costly. So outsourcing it to fans is actually an excellent idea. NBA have been doing it on YouTube for a while. A lot of the La Liga in Spain have been doing it on YouTube for a while. And basically what they do is they open up the archive and they allow creators and editors to mash up amazing video content, upload that to their own YouTube channels, and then use our software, Content ID, to claim it, to monetize it, and get the revenue from that. So fans have the ability to indulge their passion for editing amazing videos from La Liga's history, but the ownership belongs with the league. And in fact, there are even instances where the league has shared that revenue back with the creators in order to incentivize them to make more money, to create more audience, to make to share that pot even bigger. So I think that is absolutely the way to do it if you've got the means to track the video that is being uploaded. The final thing that I'd say on this topic, which I think is interesting, is that this is the way it works at the moment, but given, and this may be the way that MLB is doing it, it will be possible very soon, if it's not already, to use clever algorithms in the cloud to go and mine that archive and pick bits out almost at the click of a button to say that in the FIFA archive, show me all of Pele's goals, show me all of the penalties that have ever been scored. And so I think that that's where there'll be a lot more development, more on the cloud computing side, that will help rights holders directly.
Thank you. Shaun, I'm going to switch on that same subject of highlights specifically to House of Highlights. Personally, a fantastic account, but for you guys, just an insane success story. I guess the question would be, you focused on highlights. That was the genius focus point at the beginning, but how important is the personality behind that account? Like, does everyone need to find their own Omar, or is it the content that really makes it work?
Sure. I think fan content and the creators behind it is a key part to what Bleach Report does. As you said, Omar was one of the creators behind our communities, right? So what I think is important is that it remains fluid for the time period that it's being filmed in. It remains active and relevant for when it's being filmed in. And that's when it's going to resonate best with our audience.
So that, I mean, for your other accounts, Omar stands out, right, as a personality behind it, as the face of that account. Is that a part of your strategy for every single account, or does that come across as sort of a one-off, a lucky hit, so to speak?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a lucky hit, but I guess if you're looking at, our communities, we've got our own creator influencer network that was called the Squad, which brands can leverage to create and amplify content. Now, it plays a key role within that kind of, unique kind of makeup which those communities make, which speaks to Gen Zs in, a unique way, right? More than any other fan group. Now, BR itself was built around reliving and sharing those kind of memorable moments of sport. And I guess a key part of that is certainly video clips and user-generated content, whether that be fan content or athlete content. Now, our aim is to create, let's call it celebratory, inclusive and relatable content for the audience, right? And what we're doing is we're showing sports from a second screen perspective. So we're capturing those moments that maybe the naked eye missed, or the personalities of the game that, you know, maybe to bring those to life. And fan creators play a key role in doing that, you know, and delivering that for some of our communities, not all of them, whether that be amazing trick shots or stunts, right from the parks all the way through to the stadiums. You know, fan creators do play a key role.
Switching back to Javier and looking ahead at, we've got two parts of the audiences on this discussion. You've got Gen Z and you've got fans of the future, which we'll call Gen Alpha for the purpose of this discussion. I mean, the club's got a short-term strategy with digital engagement, but looking further ahead, looking 5 years, looking 10 years ahead, do you see these brand new fans, these younger generations, like, will they even be watching the 90 minutes? Or do you think you're going to have to completely change your fan engagement strategy to cater to a whole new demand?
I think that in that moment it's very, very difficult for new generations to maintain attention during 90 minutes. With mobiles, with every device that we have, we are also more older generations. We are not having more than 10, 20 minutes of attention to the same, not to the same content. That is very difficult because I think when for example, for me, when I was younger, I see each match in La Liga, the 10 matches each weekend. And nowadays, part of the people that we are speaking about, no, in that ages, they are not seeing the 90 minutes each game, no? It's not so easy. No? I think that the loyal fan for their own team are watching their matches, but we have to improve that strategies with other kind of contents also to reinforce their passion for our brands or clubs. No, and I think, for example, in Valencia we have very loyal fans. They are watching each game, but also for the new generation we have to add extra contents also to cover their the things that they need, no, when they consume. For example, they have to work in different directions, no. Also in the context that I told you, for example, also with archive contents, doing highlights from remembering years ago, also especially in YouTube, for example, historical moments that we highlight in our channels, and that also, and challenging them also, and giving more entertainment, no? Also live streaming. We have an app that we develop, an app web, and for example, we send notifications to them with special content that we think that is interesting for them, and we have to take attention to different targets, also different strategies in the different platforms that we have, also to achieve that people.
Specifically on your app, like when you're dealing with the younger generation, it becomes increasingly a challenge to pull them away from platforms that they're familiar, they're comfortable with, the TikToks of this world, and direct them to your app, your product. It either has to be a standout product, it has to offer something different. How do you do that? Like, how would you make such a compelling case to pull a whole batch of younger kids away from the platforms they love engaging on and into your app?
Our app is iterated by it's a mix of our different social media accounts or different platforms, and our feed is updated with that mix of content. No, you want to follow the day after day of the club, you can go there and to see everything in our timeline. No, and we try with that app also to log it most of fans that we can, also to know better our fans and to have with us them. And we do a mix also. We integrate that platforms also in our own app, and we also work a lot with live streaming because, like you said, for example, we have to take profit of our different point of view that as a club we can arrive. For example, the traditional media can go for a behind-the-scenes contents, or for example, to film the team arrival to the stadium, or different kind of content that if you also live stream, you have an extra and extra interest from the fans. And we combine that mix of the best of the different platforms also to push our app and website. That is one of the main platforms that we want to take care.
Brilliant. Tomos, we had a chat on this earlier in the week. I was interested in your perspective on how you see the consumption habits around the live game itself changing, and how you as YouTube would look to adapt that, potentially even making a play within the broadcast landscape at the bidding table as well. Could you talk a little bit on that?
Sure. I mean, we're not in the game of bidding for premium live rights.
Yet.
Well, there are broadcasters who do it much better than we do, and we are very proud partners with them. And I think that works better. They monetize premium live better than we do. They've got multiple revenue streams, and we have one, namely advertising. A little bit of pay, but on the whole, it's just advertising. So partnership for us works much, much better, and we'd like to do many, many more partnerships. We already have very well-known partnership with BT Sport, where they live stream the Champions League final, the Europa League final on the BT Sport YouTube channel. They've done that 5 years in a row. It's not a gimmick. They really feel that there is something that they're getting out of that. But it's not the only one. We've partnered with Warner Media at the moment in Brazil, and are live streaming with that broadcaster the UEFA Nations League. We work a lot with DFB, with Sport 1 in Germany on the DFB Pokal, which is the FA Cup of Germany. So there are a number of these partnerships that work very, very well, not only for live, but for highlights as well. And so I think that's where we would like to do more when it comes to premium sport, when it comes to the whole broadcast area. It's actually working with broadcasters and not competing with them.
I guess that makes perfect sense, specifically for today's generation of fan. I think if we're taking it forwards even a few 3 to 5 years, there is the potential that rights start to get carved up a little bit. You look at live in-game clips, you look at just quick to air highlights, and then of course you have the 90 minutes. I guess is that an exciting prospect to you guys, and do you think that'll bring more platforms into play when it comes to usage of the live 90 minutes? Or do you think it's going to stay pretty similar to how it is, wrapped up with one or two big broadcasters?
I think it's possible. I mean, we see the significant value in the post-game highlights. That's where we feel we've built a kind of home of highlights internationally on YouTube, thanks to all of those partners, whether they're leagues or broadcasters or clubs or federations or whoever, who make those available. I think the one area that's interesting and in flux, if you like, is the balance between free and pay. We've seen on the whole a shift to pay over the last 20 years, and there have been huge benefits from that. Clearly, there is a concern for some sports and some leagues that they need that free-to-air exposure in order to attract, to the earlier question to Javier, the fans of tomorrow. You know, are you going to be getting them on pay as easily as you are on free? How do you get that balance right? And there are a number of different ways that people are experimenting with. We would say that, evidenced by the partnership with BT Sport, that the vast majority in pay and a small amount free to air on the broadcaster's YouTube channel is actually a very good way of combining that with different audiences, different interests, different times, no cannibalization. There is a way of doing it that works for everybody, not just broadcasters and us, but actually the sport, because the sport does need that free-to-air exposure. How does it get it? That's what lots of people are experimenting with.
Thank you for that. Just very quickly before we have to go to Shaun, does that concept of live clips in-game usage immediately 5 seconds after it's happened, is that very enticing for a platform like yours? Does that inspire you to want to get in the game of bidding for broadcast rights?
Yeah, it certainly excites us, and it's a game that we're already in, and we already operate in that space. On average, our highlights clips garner 1 million plus views across our channels. I guess that's where being owned by Warner Media has its kind of benefits. And, you know, Turner Sports, our sister company, for a long time has invested in multiple rights, NBA, MLB, and most recently MLS. And BR working with Turner takes that live sporting event or that action in the game that you'll be tuned into on TNT, and we extend it. So the action in the game, those moments become stories and become bigger than what they are, and they coincide and work together for the fan.
Nice. Thank you for that. Right on cue, my 18-month-old has just woken up. So I want to say a big thank you to the three of you. Hopefully we see, you know, Valencia grow to the greatest YouTube channel of all time over the next year. And I wish you all three the best of luck in what 2021 brings. So thank you for everyone for watching. I saw a lot of questions from Mr. Andrew Collins. I hope I got some of them in there. And we will see you on the next panel. Thank you, guys.